really need any introduction. He's been a regular guest at Mountain Cloud for a very long time. But for those of you who may be new, Ruben is a professor of religions and spirituality at Perkins School of Theology at Southern Methodist University in Dallas. And he's the guiding teacher at Maria Kanan Zen Center, my root teacher and also a very important teacher for Henry. And I think there are some guests here tonight from Maria Kanan, so welcome everyone. Ruben has published widely in English and Japanese, and he has led session and taught all over the world. So with a very grateful welcome, Ruben, to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, everyone, for this invitation to be with you this evening. My task is to offer some pointers that may enable us to deepen in our practice and also to realize what the Buddha himself realized. Basically, that's what this Zen practice is all about, to realize what the Buddha realized and enable the fruits of that realization to be manifest in our own lives. So the question that I would like to address in this short talk is, what did the Buddha realize? Now, I need to preface this by saying that in our own home Zendo, Maria Kanon Zen Center, I have recently given talks that somehow may overlap with what I'll be saying tonight. One of them is a short one that talks about what the Buddha taught. And another one subsequent to that is, what did the Buddha see? Well, the Buddha taught what he saw. And what he saw, he realized. So there is that connection between these three. And as I said, it may overlap, but I hope that the point is not so much what I say in my talk, but from your own aspiration to live an awakened life and let the fruits of that awakening truly be embodied in your day-to-day life, every moment, every breath, with every step, with every gesture, every thought, every word. So we are earnestly seeking to realize what the Buddha realized. Well, let me first of all say that according to tradition, once the Buddha saw his true self, once the Buddha awakened, he fell into a deep bliss and deep joy, filled with gratitude and filled with wisdom and compassion. And he knew right from the start that this was something that could never be conveyed in words. It could never be adequately conveyed in this human language that we have, nor captured by any human concepts or thoughts that we humans are capable of concocting from our finite minds. So realizing that, his first inclination was just to sit there and enjoy it for the rest of his life. Just sitting in bliss and just enjoying the bliss of that realization. It was so deep that he felt that his life was complete at that moment. Even if he died the very next moment, he would have said, my life is complete. I've lived for what I was born for. And so this is it. But circumstances are that he continued on living. And out of compassion, it is said, looking around and seeing sentient beings still in their state of suffering and confusion and in the struggle and in their search for something that could give them a sense of peace and joy in their lives, he felt moved to go out and share what he realized. Yet, all the while knowing that words can never capture it. So, with that realization, he said, "What the heck? Let me try anyway." So, that was that kind of attitude translated into contemporary lingo, knowing its futility, and yet he gave all his efforts to that, trying to be as skillful as he could in using words to offer an invitation to those who were seeking that awakening for themselves and seeking its fruits. So this gathering is really a very auspicious gathering of individuals whom, as I can see, are all on that same path of awakening. You are precisely seeking to see what the Buddha saw, seeking to embody and to realize in your lives what the Buddha realized. And so in that regard, we are on the same page here. You did not come here to hear some teaching or some talk that might inspire you or might give you some new ideas about what your practice is about. Hopefully not. If that's what you had in mind, then please set that aside and just take this as a set of pointers that may bring you back to what your heart has been longing for in the first place. And what our heart longs for, as we look at the evidence from different religious traditions and from the Buddhist tradition and also from the Zen tradition, is nothing less than an infinite and boundless reality that we can never capture in words and concepts. That is the first principle of Zen. As you know, it's beyond all words and concepts. It's not written in any scriptures. And so how is it known? How can we realize that? It is transmitted from those who have seen it down the line. And so Zen tradition says that Shakyamuni himself, after a lifetime, and he was now about to enter into his rest, which we call nirvana, called all the members of his community and was poised to give them his last presentation on the Dharma, to show them as best as he could what he realized, knowing that it could never be captured in words. So what happened was, as the assembly was all there and they were waiting for him to speak, he was already on the podium. He looked around, looking at the eyes of all of those who were listening to him. And then he saw a flower beside him. And when he took that flower, twirled it, and then looked again, everybody was still silent, waiting for him to say what was in his heart. But then he noticed that there was a young follower of his named Kashyapa, later known as Maha Kashyapa, the great Kashyapa, smiling in a way that his smile almost broke his face, it is said. And so he nodded and looked at Kashyapa and said, "The exquisite Dharma, the wondrous mind of Nirvana, the true form of no form, I have now just transmitted it to Kashyapa, and from now on he will be your teacher." And it is said that after saying that, and he descended the rostrum, he passed on to Nirvana soon afterwards. So then it was Kashyapa who became the bearer of that realization that was realized by the Buddha, and then he passed it along down the line. So what did the Buddha realize? What did Kashyapa receive from that transmission, which Kashyapa then transmitted to the next successor, Ananda, which Ananda transmitted to the next, and to the next, and so on, until the contemporary Zen teachers all over the world who have received it from their teachers, who also received it from their teachers down the line. Now, in fact, this is a concocted story that was from about the 11th or 12th century China. But what we can say is that those who were behind this construct were also persons who had practiced in the way that they could understand. And so they just went back and extrapolated back to Shakyamuni. So we don't have to take this literally or historically, but it's just a pointer that what we receive in Zen is something that we receive through the line of those masters who have awakened and who have lived that reality and who have realized that reality in a way that they transmitted it directly. And what is transmitted is simply that once you open your eyes to that, then you are now an awakened one. Those are the third and fourth principles of Zen. The third one being it is transmitted from teacher to follower, and follower who then becomes a teacher to the next follower, and so on. So those who are acknowledged as Zen teachers, authorized by their own teacher, who is an acknowledged Zen teacher, and so on, have that sense of connection with all of those Zen masters in the past. So now what is that which was realized? And so what words can I offer for us here now so that each one of us can then taste that of ourselves? I will just cite one sutra that is familiar to all of you, and that is the Heart Sutra. The Heart Sutra is entitled the Heart Sutra in its short form precisely because it is said to convey the heart of Buddhist awakening. And the single word that stands out in this Heart Sutra is the word emptiness. The word emptiness is an English translation, perhaps a little one-sided, but it is the standard translation used for a word in Sanskrit that is pronounced as shunyata, coming out of the Sanskrit word shunya, which means zero. And so in the best way we can translate it, the ta there is what makes it an impersonal noun form. So shunyata would be zero-ness, the zero-ness of things. So the Heart Sutra begins, when the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara practiced that deep wisdom that takes you to the other shore, she realized that all constituents of existence are characterized by shunyata, and the translation is are empty. And that emptiness is no other than all the five constituents of existence, and all the constituents of existence are no other than that emptiness itself. Now, these seem to be very, very, very highfalutin words and very technical words that are hard to grasp. But let me just offer an example from a well-known Zen master, Thich Nhat Hanh, who has a short video, by the way, which you can find on YouTube on emptiness. It's just about 7 minutes. So if you'd like to check it out, some of you may have already seen that, Thich Nhat Hanh on emptiness. And he says, emptiness, which sums up the Buddha's realization, is not nothing. So he points to a flower. Aha, a flower. Remember, the Buddha showed the flower, and Kashyapa smiled, and bingo, everything opened for Kashyapa. And so then was the beginning of this transmission of that enlightenment. So what's in that flower? Thich Nhat Hanh gives us a hint. If you look at this flower, it's not just this individual little object here that we call flower. If you really see with the eyes of the heart, if you really see with the eyes that see things as they are, you will see that this flower is made up of its stem, its leaves, its roots, the soil, and the water that came through the soil to nourish the plant, the air that continues to provide the atmosphere for that plant and for all of these elements to come together in that flower. And the earth then is connected to this whole body of sentient beings in this big globe that we call the earth. And the earth is part of a solar system that revolves around the sun. And the sun is part of a galaxy that revolves around other galaxies and so on. And beyond the infinite universe. And so if you really look at this flower and all of what it contains, it's not just this flower. If you think that there's this flower independently of other things like that other flower or that tree or that rock, then you are deluded in seeing. This flower really is the soil, the rock, the earth, the mountains, rivers, the stars, the moon, the universe. Now, I'm using words to point out that what we can see when we really see with those eyes can be so mind-blowing. That's why Shakyamuni was also overwhelmed by what he saw. That moment when he saw that, which is described in the Heart Sutra as emptiness, shunyata, really is that there is no such thing as this individual flower or this individual stone or this individual person. But in each and every one of these, the whole universe is there. And everything that exists, everything that has ever been, and everything that will be is right here in this flower. So this flower is not what you think it is. It is everything that you can ever think of. And the other important point is, this is you. It's not just the whole universe out there. Okay, that's easy to imagine. But it's you. You seeing this flower, which is really what is everything, is contained in that. And so ultimately we see that fact that there is no separation. And the fact that there is no separation, to see that fact, is what will give us that sense that we are all kin with one another. There is nothing in this universe that is separate from my own existence. And each and everything around me, as I experience them, whether I see, hear, touch, taste, feel, smell, is connected to me in the most intimate way I can ever be. Now, I would like to approach this from a Western philosophical perspective. This is perhaps an occupational hazard of mine. I teach in a theology school, so I use a lot of philosophical words all the time. But my hope is that in using those philosophical words, those who are listening don't get stuck to those words, but somehow also can see them as pointers to that reality of which a spark is already there in each and every one of us, so that when it meets the right words or it meets the right occasion and hears the right words, that spark can be ignited and put you aflame. So the word that I would like to bring up is the infinitive to be. I was just at a class this afternoon reading some excerpts of Thomas Aquinas. How boring, you might think. Well, somehow we got into a spirited discussion about Thomas Aquinas' question, does God exist? How can we know if God exists or not? And so on. Well, I won't trouble you with all of the details of that. But what I can say in summary is that in Thomas's way of expressing it, that which in Christian tradition or in Jewish tradition and in Muslim tradition is called God or Allah, is that than which nothing greater can be thought. That than which nothing greater can be thought. And so if you think that this is God, you've already captured it in a concept, but therefore it's no longer that than which nothing greater can be thought. It's always beyond that. It's always beyond the words that we try to use for it. It's always pointing to something other there, but not other. It's also at the most intimate part of us that points beyond it. See those two tensions already, going beyond the transcendent and the innermost core of my being, the immanent, meeting in one word. And that's what is called God in the Christian and other theistic traditions. But in Thomas Aquinas's way of using another word to point to that, he says, that is esse, se ipsum, to be as such. So what is that to be as such? Again, I'm taking a reverse angle here in using words. My invitation for each and every one of us is here just to realize your sense of to be. As you sit there, breathing in and breathing out, how can you express that which is most intimate to you? You can say, I am such and such. I am my name. I am like this, how old I am, or I am a father or a mother, or I am a daughter of, and so on. But those are all secondary. The most intimate and most direct verbal expression that comes out of this experience of sitting still is I am. And even that I is redundant there. But in English, we have to use the subjective pronoun to make a sentence understandable. So basically, you can just say am, because when you say is, that refers to something else outside of you. And so for this tradition, Thomas says, to be, that pure to be, is what we experience when we are here, sitting, breathing in and breathing out. And if you really delve deeply into that, to be, I am, and that I am enables me to participate in to be. And so I look around and I see the pebbles, the tree outside in the yard, the cement, the houses, the clouds, the mountains, other people walking around. To be. They are all part of that to be. And so as I experience that fullness of that to be, and I truly melt into it, I truly dissolve into it, I truly become that to be, then I realize that all that bees is not separate from me. I am the people walking around. I am the tree. I am the mountains. I am the grass. I am the dogs, the cats. I am literally each and everything that exists in the world. If and only if I am able to really realize this to be. I am. That already is a very limited way, because when I say I am, but how about those others? It's not an I am that has a limitation. It's an I am that includes all that ams, all that is, and it is that to be. Sorry for these kinds of technical words, but I'm trying to use words as a pointer so that as you experience that most intimate sense of I am, know that I am is all-inclusive. There is nothing outside of that I am. And you are that. Of course, that's what you're saying. I am. What are you? Who am I? I am. Now, in Zen, there is a device that enables us to enter into that mystery of the I am, that enables us to see how we are not separate from anything that exists. It reverses the I am and says, Mu. Now, I won't go into the details of the koan mu, but there are practitioners who are given this koan mu, and your task is to simply breathe in and breathe out. And so thinking that it is an opaque word precisely because there is no meaning, well, of course, the original meaning in the context in which it was spoken was that when Joshi was asked, does a dog have Buddha nature? He responded in Chinese saying an equivalent of no way, wu, and Japanese translated in its pronunciation as mu. And so the practitioner is asked to just take that mu and take that as one's way of entering into that most intimate place in our being. And as we really settle into that, and as we melt into that, and as we be that, the whole universe opens up. I am. And now that's only the beginning. That's when you realize all 5 constituents of my existence are all empty, because it's not a substance that I can point to as existing here. It's everything that is. And so everything that is me. And everything that is pulses with my veins, and pulses with my heartbeat and with my pulse, and I feel the throb of the whole universe in me. So everyone is kin to me in the most intimate way. And as I see that everyone is kin to me, what early scriptures, specifically the so-called Metta Sutta, or the Sutra on Loving Kindness, becomes the most natural way in which I can live my life. As I see my kinship with each and everything around me, and everything really is what I am, then what the Metta Sutta, the Sutra on Loving Kindness, says becomes what I am able to embody in the most natural way. Let me just cite a couple of lines from there. Just as with her own life, a mother shields her child from hurt, let this boundless heart be in you. In another translation, as a mother would do everything to protect her child, her only child, have this boundless heart in you toward all beings, as a mother would to her only child. So each and everything in this universe is my only child. And I look at each and everything and each and everyone with that heart of a mother. That's an invitation. And out of that, then, we are also enjoined to cultivate that boundless heart of goodwill to all in the universe, to all in its different heights, depths, and breadth, and let that love that is untroubled beyond hatred or enmity spring forth. That love. I have a sense that it is that original love that Henry is referring to. No, not only that I have that sense, I'm convinced that when Henry uses that word original love, that's it. He's referring to that which we're trying to talk about, that which the Buddha realized, that which is already a spark in each of us waiting to be kindled. And for some of you, or many of you, it may already be kindled in a way that you're already living it. And so an opportunity like this enables us to really recapture that and confirm that. So I hope that these words are simply ways of pointing to each and every one of you what is already there in you, the kindling of that original fire of love that waits to consume the earth, to heal this wounded earth, to give some alleviation to the sufferings of our fellow human beings, not just in an abstract way, but in concrete ways that we can engage in society, in politics, in economics, in the very things that determine the fate of our fellow human beings and our fellow sentient beings and of our whole earth. If we have really realized what the Buddha realized, then we cannot but be engaged in a way that we earnestly seek, as a mother would seek the well-being of her only child, to do what we can for the well-being of this earth community of ours, beginning with those around us, beginning with those with whom we have contact, and the circle goes further and further. So may we all continue in that circle of original love, enabling it to be realized in our lives, and to see how we are kin to one another and celebrate that kinship together in the different forms that we can. These are fumbling words, but I offer them with the intention of helping one another rekindle that original fire of love. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ruben, for these living words and for the joy and freedom and compassion that you convey. If anyone would like to make a comment or ask a question, we have a few minutes, or we can just let this be complete. But please feel free. You can chat or raise your hand or even just unmute yourself, I believe. Peg can do that, make that possible.
It's done. People can unmute.
Don't be shy.
I feel that you have launched us into this retreat that begins tomorrow, really in a very helpful way. Let's see.
So Petrick asks a question. Why is it hard to awaken? You know that song by the Carpenters? Waking up is hard to do. Oh no, that's wrong. That's breaking up is hard to do. Anyway, I always make that fun of waking up is hard to do. But yes, any takes on that? Why is it so hard to awaken? Rather than me answering it authoritatively, may I ask those who are in the midst of that process also to share something of your experience? Why is it hard to awaken? In answer or in response to Patrick McCarthy's question.
I have a response that is a personal, where I am today is feeling some strong emotion coming up that is part of, it's a growth process for me, but it has kept me from being really present with everything and everyone. Where I used to go out and love the trees and talk to the trees, I am in my head with this feeling process. So I don't know if that's a question as much as a dilemma.
Thank you. I think it also corresponds to what Patrick is saying. Why is it so hard to awaken? As long as we remain in our heads, somehow it blocks the deeper part of us from really opening up. So that's why this sitting practice becomes for us an opportunity to get out of our heads and go deeper. And first of all, be aware of the breath, be aware of the body, and let our whole being be truly here now, and come to that point of really being aware of to be, not just thinking about what is, but allowing this to be felt with the guts. I feel pain, I feel joy, I feel hurt. So that's that place where the feeling comes, not just the emotional aspect, but that deep, deep place in us that allows me to say, I am, to be, is that very dynamic reality. So if you look at a tree, and I'm glad to know that you are a person who feels so natural with trees and natural sceneries, it's most natural for us human beings to feel that affinity with nature. So allow that to reign rather than just analyzing them. Again, the philosopher in me wants to bring up Martin Buber, who in a book called I and Thou says there are different ways of looking at a tree. You can look at it as an example of a certain model. You can analyze its color, its shape. You can go into the biological, physiological aspects of the tree. All of that is valid. But there may come a moment in your way of just being there in the presence of the tree where you behold the tree and all words cease. And the tree just looms large in your awareness so that it becomes the expression of all that you are and all that the universe is. When you are literally sucked up by the tree and it's simply tree, whether it's an oak tree or a sycamore tree, it's just that. So that sense of just that, giving away, or rather shedding this little I, me, mine that thinks all the time and analyzes all the time, and allowing that which is to be truly experienced from the gut, that may be away. So please do not block your senses, but in sitting or in your taking a walk or in just going about day-to-day activities, let your whole set of sensations be fully alive and receive whatever comes from the world. And one of them might be the gateway to that realization of I am. And when you realize that, whatever comes after the I am really is equal to everything else. I am tree, I am cloud, I am mountain. All becomes true in that regard. So please take that sensitivity to nature as your gateway to that, and not let your mind block you from that full and direct way of experiencing that presence.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Anyone else would like to try to address? So, Abby.
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I have been meditating regularly for a while, but without a great deal of guidance. And I have been asking myself, wondering whether the koan way or shikantaza would be for me. And I'm not even sure that's a question I'm supposed to answer. But be that as it may, the more I meditate and the more I think about Mu, think about shikantaza, and experience whatever it is I'm experiencing, I see less and less difference between doing Mu and doing shikantaza.
Mm-hmm.
Could you comment on that?
That is certainly something I can understand. When we are able to practice what Zen really is inviting us to practice, then whether we enter into it by the gateway of Mu or we enter into it by the gateway of Shikantaza, what happens is that little subjective egoic self that is always thinking, analyzing, or comparing somehow subsides and somehow is allowed to just rest. And as the little egoic self, the self-conscious self, is allowed to rest in Shikantaza, where we're just breathing in and breathing out and letting the stillness reign, or whether it's in mu, where we keep uttering mu with every out breath, when we are able to arrive at that still place allows for a merging, or rather a dissolution of that egoic self and the objective world. So when those two are no longer two, when I am just at that still place, somehow anything that I hear, taste, touch, see, or feel can open up that gateway to the I am that covers the whole universe. So again, depending on your state of mind, usually for just to give you a guideline that those of us who are privileged to help and guide others in this path take as a rule of thumb, if somebody comes with big questions like, who am I? How shall I live my life? How can I find my true self? Comes to Zen practice, that person with those big questions would usually be helped by the koan mu, because their minds are so active, they're asking and so on. So mu has the function of quelling the mind and allowing it to just rest in this handle called mu, which you're invited to take you to that depth where the subject and object dissolve into one another. Whereas in Shikantaza, for those who are seeking a deeper spiritual life, those who are seeking a deeper sense of reality, Shikantaza is most conducive in a way that it simply allows them to enter into that stillness and come to that same place. Now, when something happens to that person, then we may have to use the language that we use with koans to check whether that was an authentic experience. But as an entry point, there are some who would be more helped by Shikantaza, because when you are given a koan mu, then the tendency of the mind is precisely to think mu, or what is this mu? Where can I find it? How is it? And so on. Is this mu? Is that mu? And then it gets sidetracked. But the point of that koan mu is to simply be one with it, allow it to resonate so deeply so that you dissolve in it, not to think about it or to find its meaning. And so once that is clear, then mu is just your opening to that which you will realize is no other than you yourself. Am I giving away too much here?
Not too much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a comment from Mary Frances. This discussion of calming the ego is so very helpful.
Thank you. I'm glad to know that. Yes, it is. It's simply allowing us to just be and be at home. So there is no other place we can find home than in the recesses of the house, as one koan goes. The true Buddha, the true awakened one, is sitting in the recesses of the house. So sitting with a posture conducive to stillness, being aware of the breath, and allowing the mind to just be still and be present is a direct way of coming home and being at home, where there is no self to worry about the future or the past, but we are simply able to take this now as a timeless moment that can be so peaceful and so compellingly joyous. And I'm sure you have all tasted that to some extent.
On that, I think we will draw this to a close. Thank you again, Ruben, from all of us.
Thank you, everyone. I'm honored to be part of your sitting tonight. Good night and good luck.